Now we're going to walk through the install of the operating system. So I'm just going to start RTS Serve 2, and it said press any key to boot from CD, DVD. Just going to slide this over a bit. So now we are in Windows Setup. This will ask me the language, time and currency, keyboard input. All that is staying the same. So I'm going to click Next. Now, if you need to repair your operating system, maybe you need to repair boot files or something like that, there is a Repair Your Computer option that shows up here. I'm going to click Install Now. This will ask me what operating system we want. Now, I know we've seen this before. We talked about the core server, the standard and data center, and we talked about the desktop experience server with the GUI. Well, I'm going to install Data Center Desktop Experience, so we'll choose Next for that. That brings up the license agreement. I'm going to accept the license agreement, and I'll just go to Next. Now it says, are you trying to upgrade an existing operating system? Which we're not. This is a brand new virtual machine. So for a clean install on a new machine, we will choose Custom. Now it brings up the drive. When you create a virtual machine, the hard drive, the virtual hard drive, always defaults to be 127 gigs. Now, because it's a VHDX, you can make it as large as 64 terabytes. You can also change the size of this after the operating system is installed. So this is a very forgiving. If you make it too large or too small, you can easily adjust it after the fact. Now, let's say you wanted to modify something about this. Maybe here you want to create multiple partitions, or you want to add a second hard drive to the virtual machine. You want to do something like that. You can, but you have to hold down Shift and press F10. And that will invoke the command prompt. So now you would have to know what it is you intend to do, and you would have to manage all those settings from the command prompt itself. But any modifications to the install, Shift F10 would actually invoke the command prompt for you. But we're not modifying anything, so I'm just going to type exit there. Now I could click New. If I do that, it will let me size a partition. What it will never let you do is choose the format. So with this, the format is going to be NTFS no matter what. The option you have here, I'm going to click Cancel right there. This option here to format, if you created a new volume or a new partition, all it will do is a full format. A full format checks every single sector on this drive to make sure the sector is not bad. If you do not click Format, or like here, I'm just going to click Next, it assumes the drive is already good, and it just formats. It does not check each individual sector. Now, with a virtual machine, normally you're not going to do a full format for a virtual machine. You would typically do that if you have a brand new hard drive that you've added to like a physical computer. You would do a full format just to make sure that there are no bad sectors on the hard drive itself. And if it does detect them, it'll give you a message, and it'll even attempt to repair those. But we know this hard drive is good here. So I'm just going to click Next, and it's going to use that entire 127 gigs. So the only time you would ever click New is if you wanted to create a partition on that's smaller than 127 gigs. You could have created a 100 gig partition and just left the rest unallocated. Now that'll take just a moment, but it's going to run through the installation. Now the install is complete. It wants me to set the default password for my built-in administrator account. So I'll set that, and we are completely done with the installation itself. I'm going to put this in full screen. Now it just wants me to sign in, so I'll enter my password. Now, it takes a moment to sign in the first time as it builds your user profile. Subsequent logins will be much faster than that one. In an earlier lesson, we have already looked at the post-installation tasks. So I know I would rename this from the win. I would rename it to RTS-SVR2, presuming that's the name you want. I would set the IP address. We could activate. We could join the domain. We could do all of those things, but we've done all of that before. So instead, what I'm going to do is actually exit out of this. I'm going to leave it running for now, but I'm going to exit out of it. So I can see right now it has 2048 megabytes of RAM. It is not using very much CPU time right now. It's 0% at the moment. It was 3% a moment ago because it does not have any applications or services running. So very low CPU utilization. Now, a few things we can see. I can see the date time that this was created. I can see the configuration version. That's not really a concern for us. But the configuration version on server 2019 is 9.0. If this had been created on server 2016, it would be 8.3. Not really relevant, but each operating system just has a different configuration version. The generation 2, unless it's an older operating system or a 32-bit operating system, we're always going to choose generation 2. I can see it's not in a cluster. We just talked about the heartbeat and verified in PowerShell how we could check the status of the machine, but I can see that it's okay. And we didn't define any notes related to the virtual machine. But at the bottom, that's just on the summary. If I go to memory, I can see the startup memory, dynamic memory is enabled, minimum, maximum memory. I can see how much is assigned. Now, this assigned memory is what you'll see here. That's literally how much it's actually using. It started up at 2048 megabytes. After it started up, it didn't need that much memory. So it actually, because it's using dynamic memory, scaled itself back, and now it's only using 1,352 megabytes. Pretty fascinating. If I go to networking, nothing, because we don't have a network adapter connected yet. And we have not configured anything related to replication yet. But that is the install of the operating system.